Good evening. It's 6:03. We're going to call this meeting to order. Mr. Salazar.
Mr. Amaya, members of the board, this evening we have Ms. Larrasquito, principal at Lopez Riggins Elementary, to introduce us to a student that will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Larrasquito.
Good evening, Mr. Amaya, members of the board, and Mr. Salazar. Today it's an honor to present the following student, who is one of our fifth grade students. This is Carlos Rodriguez, student, of course, at Lopez Riggins Elementary. He is the son of Eduardo Rodriguez and Miss Maria Ofelia Salcedo. Carlos is an exemplary student. He is an A honor roll student and is one of the top students in our Imagine math program. He has done an amazing job. Carlos is one of our hall monitors. He helps our little ones. He walks them in our hallway, so he does an excellent job. One of Carlos's favorite things to do is drawing, and he hopes that one day he will become a doctor. And I'm sure that Carlos will be one of the best. Thank you so much, Carlos, for helping us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, Carlos is here to help lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Will everyone please rise for the pledge?
Of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas and state under God, one and indivisible.
Hurry up on becoming a doctor, Carlos. Ms. Garcia, can you help us with roll call, please?
Mr. Jesus Amaya.
Present.
Mr. Leonel Garza.
Present.
Mrs. Sandra Garcia, I'm here. Mr. Martin Castillo.
Present.
Mrs. Darlene Peterson, she's not here. Mr. Ray Farias is not in attendance. Mr. Ruben Trevino, not here. Mr. Gonzalo Salazar. Ms. Elizabeth Neely.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Salazar, public hearing on the Texas Academic, on the TAPER report, performance report.
Mr. Amaya, members of the board, and members of the audience, the Texas Education Code requires each district board of trustees to publish an annual report that includes a Texas Academic Performance Report, a TAPER, district accreditation status, campus performance objectives, information on student discipline, and information on the performance of previous year's graduates in their first year of college. Also has to be, as reported by the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, should be included in the report. Each district's board of trustees must hold a public hearing to discuss the district's annual report within 90 days of receiving the final TAPER. And tonight we set out to do just that. So this evening I'm going to call on Mr. Ben Estrada, Director of Assessment, to come forward and share some of that information with us.
Just for our tape record, Ms. Peterson has walked in at 6:06.
Good evening, Mr. President, Mr. Salazar, board members, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we'll be reviewing the Texas Academic Performance Report for the Fresnos CISD in summary form as required by statute. This summary, as well as the complete summary of the district and all of its campuses, will be placed on our website within 40 hours of this public hearing, in case anyone in the public does want to see the complete report unedited. As we go through the presentation, if any questions arise, please feel free to stop me at that moment and ask a question. It's always better to ask it right on the slide. So, moving forward, this is the Texas Academic Performance Report. Now, as comprehensive as the report is, we do have to add a little bit to the summary so that everyone knows who was involved in that particular year and what we are doing for that particular year in terms of performance. So these first 4 slides address what we need to add. First and foremost, we do have to add our leadership, so you'll see all of your names on this particular slide, as well as our superintendent and his cabinet. Also included in the summary are the district goals for that particular year, and this is, of course, for 2016-2017, as well as the campus performance objectives. And finally, the 4th slide, a summary of the accountability ratings for that year, and of course the academic achievement distinction designations, a summary, so that the constituents can see at a glance how we did on our accountability ratings. And as you can see, we did meet the standard for our accountability ratings, and of course each distinction that each campus received. Now, on the actual reports themselves, each campus will have its own academic distinctions and its own accountability rating. That's why the summary contains everything in there in one glance, so you can see everything on one slide. Now, included in the TAPR, of course, is a section on student demographics. Last year, we had 10,827 students in the district, and you will see the ethnic breakdown of that population. 96.6% of our students are Hispanic. And of course, we do have an economically disadvantaged population of 77.3%. We also have a breakdown of limited English proficient, at risk, and then of course a number of students with disciplinary placements, and of course that is behind, so that we can see it takes time to actually review all of those numbers to have those in there. And then of course student enrollment by program, which includes bilingual, gifted and talented, special education, and career and technology students. Also included in the TAPR is the operation expenditures. Now, just like our graduation rate and our dropout rate, which is a year behind, our operational expenditures are also a year behind. And the reason for that is TEA does take time to audit all of our expenditures. So what you're going to see is our expenditures for the year 2015-2016. So you'll see how we spent our money in the district and how the state allocates their funds as well. And you can see how we compare with each other. Included in the TAPR is a section on staff demographics. In this section, you will see a breakdown of the degrees that our teachers hold, breakdown of teachers by program, years by experience, our teacher-to-student ratio, average years of experience, years with the district, and our turnover rate. 2 things that I do want to point out on this particular slide. The number of teachers that we have with master's degrees. We have 26.8% of our teachers with master's degrees, and when you compare that to the state at 23.6%, that's pretty good. The other thing I do want to point out is our turnover rate, basically our retention. So our retention rate is 8.1% of teachers actually leave once, if they do hire with us, get hired with us. Basically what that means is once they come to work for us, they don't leave, okay, as compared to the 16.4% at the state level. Now, of course, no performance report would be complete without student performance. So, and this basically does make up the bulk of the Texas Academic Performance Report. This slide breakdown, you're going to be seeing very familiar from here on out, okay? As the STAR has evolved and our accountability program has evolved, the terminology has changed slightly. Last year, if you remember from the Texas Academic Performance Report meeting that we had, we were talking about students at the Level 2 performance standard and students at the final standard, and then of course at the master's. Well, that terminology has changed now. The Level 2 is now the approaches, which is the title up at the top. The approaches, that minimum standard the students have to meet to pass a particular exam. From there, we jump up to the meets grade level. So those are the students at that final, at that higher passing standard. And then of course we move on to the mastery level. So you can see starting from left to right, starting with the all students here, we go through with African American, Hispanic, white, economically disadvantaged, special ed, and ELL. The Fresnos is in the maroon, and you'll see that we pretty much outperform the region and the state in all subpopulations. This is, of course, a summary breakdown of grades 3 through 8 in the area of reading. You're going to see the same format, mathematics, 3 through 8. You can see that we outperform the region and the state in all areas. In writing, the same trend continues. Science, more of the same. Social studies, again, that trend. Now you also may notice that on the tail side, on the special ed and ELL, these are traditionally the lowest performing groups across the state. But in all of our slides, you can see that our special ed and our ELLs are still outperforming the state and the region in those particular subject areas. So we are still ahead at the state, again from the state and the region. That trend continues as we look at the EOCs, starting with the English 1 on the far left, moving all the way across English 2, algebra, biology, and U.S. history. So, for students that pass, what about that higher standard? When we get to that approaches and meets grade levels. So how many of our students are actually performing at grade level? So when we combine all of our grades and all of our student performance, you'll see that in the areas of reading, math, writing, science, and social studies, again, the same pattern translates from all subject areas when we put them together. We are outperforming the region, we are outperforming the state. And if you look at the far right, students that are scoring at that grade level standard in 2 or more subjects, 60% of our kids are doing very well. They're getting more and more at that meets grade level standard. Now, on the onset of STAR, and we talked about this in previous years, when they created the STAR, the psychometricians at TEA wanted to come up with a way to measure student growth from one year to the next. So there's a progress measure built into STAR. So when students go from one grade level to the next, they either meet the expected growth or they exceed that expected growth. So when we combine the met and exceeded progress in the areas of reading and math, again, the trend continues. 66% of our students, if we look at all subjects, are meeting or exceeding the expected growth from year to year. And if we look at reading and math, again, that same trend continues. And if we look just at those that exceeded, almost 25% of our students are exceeding the expected growth. Okay, and again, well ahead of the region and the state. Now this slide's very important because when you look at the taper report, it's really good to look at the students. Feel really good about how our students pass. But what happens to the students that are unsuccessful? What happens to those? Well, this particular slide is going to show you that when students were unsuccessful in 2016, what happened to them in 2017? Well, 46% of the students that were unsuccessful in reading were successful the following year. In mathematics, 56% of the students that were unsuccessful in 2016 in math were successful. So that tells us that the interventions that we are putting in place, the things that we are doing for our students, is working. We're getting more than half of the kids that were unsuccessful in one year to pass the next year. Okay? Very important slide. This is a summary of our attendance rate, and again, the attendance rate is just like our graduation and our operational expenditures. It is 1 year behind, so this is what the attendance rates look like in 2016. College readiness. What happens to our kids when they graduate? Are they graduating on time? All of that information is included in the taper. So when we look at our dropout rates, again, 1 year behind. In grades 7 through 8, our dropout rate remains steady at 0.1. And we had an improvement in grades 9 through 12. We went from 1.2 to 1%. So less our students are dropping out. When we look at our 4-year completion rate, how many students are finishing in the required 4 years for graduation? 92.2% of our students are graduating on time, which is above the state and the region at 89.1 in the state and 89.7 in the region. So we're doing very well with our graduation rate. And when they do graduate, what type of diplomas are they getting? Are they graduating with the recommended high school program diploma or the distinguished academic program? And you can see that 94% of our students are graduating with that recommended or that distinguished graduation, holding steady from 2015 to 2016. What about students that are taking advanced courses or dual enrollment completion? Are they completing their courses? This year we had a gain from 2015, from 39.2, we went up to 43.2%, just above the region and well above the state. So we're making ground, we're gaining on them. or we're actually exceeding, but we're gaining more ground on our own. AP results. Students who take advanced placement courses and actually take the exams for credit. How are these students doing? Well, if we look at the all students in English, math, science, and social studies, again, that trend that is translated from all of our performance standards from before, or our performance slides from before, is translating to our AP courses. Our ACT and SAT results have remained steady for the last 3 years. They're still in there, and we're working on it. But you can see how we've pretty much maintained the course, and hopefully we'll make those gains pretty soon. So once our students graduate and they go off to college, what happens to them? So just like we have to take a year to catch up to our graduating class, the colleges have to. So we're looking at the class of 2015. We're actually going back another year. 60% of our students who graduated at that time enrolled in an institute of higher education. Okay, they entered college. 68.1% were able to complete their first year without any type of remediation. And that is an increase from the 65.2% for the class of 2014. So when we look at those, well, okay, what are we talking about Institute of Higher Education? Well, if we break it down for the class of 2015, we had 605 students that graduated that year. We had 200 that entered a 4-year public university, 159 that entered a 2-year public college, 5 were in independent colleges or universities, 12 were not trackable, and 229 of them were not found. Now, and again, just a review of the 229 that were not found, we have a lot of students who go to college out of state. They do not report to the Texas Higher Education Board. We have also students that go to private universities that do not report their data to the coordinating board. So that's where all of those numbers are. Okay. At this time, I'm going to take a little break. And are there any questions, anything that needs clarification?
Question. This is a public hearing now. If anybody in the audience has any questions, please don't hesitate. Let us know. It's not just for the board. One of the few times we get to have some input from the audience. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I will now turn the mic over to Mrs. Amaro Cibaja, who will continue with the taper report.
Thank you, Mr. Estrada. It's always difficult after those good numbers and great scores to come back with discipline, right? But it is a requirement. It's a requirement that we also provide the number and the type of incidents in our school district, the actions that we're taking, and what are we doing to assist with that discipline. So I'm going to start off with the incidents. And I've divided it. The first part is elementary. This is the violation of student code of conduct. And the violations, these are daily discipline cases, or it might be a dress code violation. It might be having problems in the classroom. So here we see Del Romero at 34, Las Yescas at 35, and others very closely to what they had last school year. It's a 2-year comparison, 2015-16 with 2016-2017. The next slide is the violation of student code of conduct for secondary. If we notice here, Los Fresnos High School and LSU. Before, we used to have LSU only with 9th graders. Now we have 10th graders, larger population, and it seems that 9th and 10th graders are the most challenging students. So you see pretty much an increase in LSU. And that's going to hold true throughout all the other slides where you're going to see LSU has an increase in discipline and a decrease at Los Fresnos High School.
So we now exist across 2 campuses, and so you see a corresponding decrease at Los Fresnos High School wherever you see
an increase at LSU.
So it's a shift from one campus to another, which still remains for us.
There was also, as I might add to LSU, there was an administrator added there to assist with discipline amongst other responsibilities. The possession of controlled substance, this is only at the secondary. We do not have any incidents in the elementary. And again, you see the incidents here outlined in the 2-year comparison. And again, you see this LFU an increase and LFHS a decrease. A felony of controlled substance. This is any controlled substance that is 4 ounces or more. It also, in any of these cases, we have to corroborate with our police department working together. Mutual combat fighting, very close to what we had last year. Terroristic threat, smaller numbers this school year. LFHS had 2, LFU's 1. These are always followed with a home visit by our PD, by our administrators, and also we have a conference with our parents. The next one is a high school disciplinary reasons summary. They're all the ones that I just covered, and it's just in one slide at a glance. District total incidents. Now these is all the middle schools and all the middle schools and in the high schools, a combined total. The fighting, the possession, the threat, and the controlled substance. Now we look at, okay, we had the incidents, now we have to report what actions were taken to responding to those incidents. We start with the elementary out-of-school suspension. I might note that this year, our second graders, if a student is in second grade or below, we cannot provide out-of-school suspension. So we're hoping that these numbers are going to go down next year. There will be no one suspended from second grade below. Now there are many variables here. What we try to do is keep our students in school. So there is an increase here in out of school, but as you see on the next one, actually this is secondary out of school suspension. So again, if you see LFU, if we saw the incidents, they corroborate with an increase also with an increase in the out of school suspension and the action and reason codes that were taken, that were given. The action code. Here's the elementary partial OSS. So what they do, our administrators, is they only assign partial out-of-school suspension. So they might be in school in the morning and they just say you're out-of-school suspension for the rest of this afternoon. You'll be back tomorrow. Secondary partial OSS. Elementary in-school suspension. So what we try to do is keep them in school. We send them to our ISS room and continue to provide our academics, continue to provide instruction. Many times our teachers go over to the ISS and provide some work or provide assistance. Secondary in-school suspension, trying to keep them in school. Elementary partial ISS. So the same concept applies where we might say you're going into ISS only for the remainder of the school day and tomorrow you return to your class. There was a decrease in most campuses and slight increase in others. Secondary partial ISS, slight increase. DAP placements, these are mandatory placements and the DAP. And JJAP, again, these are mandatory expulsions. Low number, but we still have some at JJAP. Disciplinary action summary, this is just a summary of all the slides that I just covered. This is including elementary, middle school, and high school, a sum of all grade levels. So then we provide, what are some of the interventions and preventions that you've been providing in the classrooms and on campuses? So our vision is to practice positive practices, positive response approaches. And this graphic organizer summarizes the next couple of slides. What we've been doing is engaging engaging, making our students and our teachers aware of responsive approaches. Our campus behavior coordinator has become the champion at each campus. Teacher follow-up at DAP. So what we've done there also is that we've had a lot of teachers coming over to DAP once we place them at DAP, coming over to visit, coming over to follow up to see how they're doing. It might be academics or it might just be building relationships with them. We've done a campus response team where at campus they become a team in assisting our students. And this year we've done a lot more family engagement, stakeholders, involve more of our parents, of our teachers, and becoming stakeholders and providing assistance to our families. We've had some classes and sessions on discipline, on some of the consequences and what parents can do to assist our students. The implementation, we started off with our convocation on building relationships. So that's what we've been providing to our staff, to our teachers. Staff student circles, we started that last year and we continue with our student circles. Character development and leadership class, this is new. This is something that we've been doing at DAP. Part of their day might be a session, it's a transition of a class, let's call it a class, but it's just a session on developing a leader, on finding other things that they can do and become leaders within their school, within maybe DAP, starting a DAP, how do they become a leader? So it's a 30-minute class or a 30-minute session a day, and they do a rotation, and it's led by a teacher. What they do is they alternate during the conference periods. Teachers have volunteered that they want to do this, that they want to assist the students, or even our assistant principal at DAP might take a class and provide some leadership class. They have a curriculum that they're following, and that's what they're using there. Reentry circles, any student who goes back from DAP into our middle schools or to our high school, we do a reentry circle. Our DAP coordinator meets with the campus principal or campus administrator with their teachers, and we bring our student back. When they're coming back into the school, they're starting from scratch, a new start, and what can we do to make his return or her return better? So we're doing those reentry circles. Family engagement district-wide presentations. We've been doing district-wide presentations, campus presentations, and our family engagement department has been very active in providing assistance to our parents. At the same time, we continue with Los Fresnos CISD Police Department. They have a very active role in providing a safe and secure environment. The District Family Engagement Department, I've talked quite a bit on them. I wanted to share the coffee chats. You've probably seen them on the marquee, principal coffee chats. What it is, it's a very open forum, very unstructured. There's no agenda. So what we're trying to do is come in, have coffee with the administrators, and let us know if the parents have a question, if they want input. So what they do, very informal, some of them have just formed a circle, and let's just talk. Tell me about your student, tell us. So the principal at that point, they don't have an agenda. Usually they have an agenda, they know what to follow. Here they're opening themselves up to hear from the parents, and any topic that comes up, that's what they discuss. If there's something they need to discuss one-on-one, then they come out and say, you know what, we'll set up an appointment, and I can address your concerns. But the principal coffee chats have been very popular. It started off with, how do we do this? But now they've embraced it, and they've been having at least two. The first semester, they had at least 2 to 3 coffee chats at their campus. The guidance and counseling program, we continue to look at alternative acceptable behaviors that students can work with. They've been working with students and providing some behavior alternatives and what they can do to be more positive. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Wanted to remind everyone that the mission of our school district is to provide a quality educational experience that results in the development of socially responsible lifelong learners. You can see from the second half of this presentation that we are not exempt with the things that afflict high schools across the state. Schools are microcosms of communities, and so we do have students making bad choices and bad behaviors, but at every opportunity we are capturing the teaching moment, and you see what we're able to accomplish when we all work together, and you can see that in the first half of this presentation, what we're able to accomplish when we work with a common vision, with a single goal and a single vision for student success. And so we thank you for the opportunity to present this information. And again, we would entertain any questions that you have or that we have from the audience.
Okay, not being an educator or in administration ever, I'm just curious as to, like on the disciplinary side of it, reporting it. As a principal, would I feel like, oh, I don't want to report so much because then it affects my numbers and shows up on the slide? Or do we encourage, report everything because we need to know what our campus makeup is or what's going on at the campuses?
And so that's a very good point. There's a human dynamic there, and some administrators are more or overzealous. Some of them are right where they need to be. So that's something that's very hard to calibrate. And then also, it's important to note that sometimes a campus will make a decision this year. Last year we had issues in these areas. We're going to make sure that we record every single fight, so that we have a true representation of what is happening on our campuses. So yeah, we recognize that there are those variables, but we do encourage, and the state requires, that we report incidents. Failure to report is something that can come back and bite you as an administrator. It'll come. There's a consequence to that, and it may not be immediate, but over time. Let me give you an example. A parent may make reference to an incident that occurred on a campus, and we always let's pull that incident to see what actually happened. And there's an accountability there's accountability there when if there was a failure to report. Can I defer? Any other administrator want to comment on that? For those of you that have been on the campus before, can comment or help with that. Pretty much captured it pretty well. Okay.
Questions from the audience? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Estrada, Mrs. Amaro, thank you for preparing and presenting this information.
Thank you very, very much. Still in your hands, sir.
We continue now with district presentations. Mr. Amaya and members of the board, January is Board Recognition Month. It's a great time to focus on the crucial role that elected Board of Trustees plays in our communities and in our schools. This evening we've set time aside to show you, our school board members, that we appreciate your dedication and your hard work. Board members are extraordinary people who voluntarily tackle the enormous job of governing a school district. Their actions and decisions affect the present and future lives of our students. Recognizing board members for this commitment and sacrifice takes a combined effort on all part of those they serve. Administrators, school staff, and as you can see, students with this recognition. I will now turn it over to our principals who will lead us in this recognition.
Mr. Amaya, members of the board, Mr. Salazar. Today we have two representatives from each of our campuses here to recognize you in a way that symbolizes the falcon, which is a symbol of soaring to success. So I turn it over to, starting with F.
I wish the people in the audience could see, and we're going to let you see. If y'all can help me maneuver this so you can see what we've been... Now, don't spell it backwards now. Okay, I caused chaos. That's what I'm here for, to cause chaos. Thank God for the teachers and the... I know you already got one, Mr. Samara, but I hope you can get... Oh, okay. Sorry. While he's doing that, we kind of run out of words, and any board member that, you know, we get to see this every year, and we get to see it almost every month, and we get to see y'all's performance and the excellence that y'all do, and then we're the ones being honored. I don't understand that a whole lot, but it's amazing to be part of this group, and you run out of words because y'all are just, you do it time and time and time again, and in everything that you do. So the leadership of the central office and the district and every campus, thank you very much for what y'all do for our students. Thank you. I'm sure we have some parents in the audience of these fine children, young and not so young Falcons. If you could stand, would like to thank you.
We'd like to ask the board members if you could please come up and stand behind the children so that we can take a picture. So at this time, we have a small token of appreciation for our board members. How fitting that the theme this year was Soar to Success, and the symbol of a falcon represents that so much. It represents the symbol of just aspiration and superiority and excellence. So how fitting that it fell within the theme. So we have each principal will be presenting to you. They'll announce their names and then hand you your gift.
Mr. Amaya, can I hand you your token of appreciation?
This goes to Ms. Darlene Peterson.
Now awarding Mrs. Sandra Garcia.
Mr. Leo Garza.
Mr. Martin Castillo.
Again, thank you for all that you do.
So we're going to have it is 6:47. We're going to have a short recess to, we've got some goodies in the back, I think, for everyone, some refreshments. So if y'all would like to join us, please do. It's 7:04. We're going to go ahead and continue with the meeting. It's still in your hands, Mr. Salazar.
Mr. Amaya and members of the board, each month we present your finance. Before we go to the second report, I'd like to see if anyone has any questions about our monthly reports or any comments about our reports.
No, we're good. Any board member have any questions on any of the reports we get monthly? Okay, sir. Keep going.
Listed as number 2, we have auditor's report and annual statements for the fiscal year ended August 31st, 2017. And this evening, we have a friend from Patillo, Brown and Hill. He's been a judge, once a judge, always a judge. And I think it's true if you've been secretary, Mr. Judge, Secretary, Judge Carlos Cascos, he said.
Thank you very much. I'm a former lot of things. But thank you very much. Before I start my presentation, I kind of mentioned to the super, Mr. President, members of the board, while I was secretary, I had the opportunity to visit 142 cities in Texas, and within those 142 cities, probably about 30 school districts. So I had the opportunity to go and speak, whether it's Bullard, Texas, Lucas, Paris, Stafford, name it, I was there to go speak to students. And one thing that I can tell you, after listening to all the presentations, Los Fresnos CISD is second to none of all the school districts that I visited, and congratulations for that. As we all know, there's different components that make up a successful school district, starting, of course, with your students, followed by the teachers, administration, and everything else that makes a school district great. And let's not forget the important part, that's why I'm here, which is the financial side. It all comes into play. They're all contingent upon each other. A successful school district cannot have 3 of those components and lack in the other 2. So we need all 5 of them, 4 or 5, in order to prevail as a very successful school district. So congratulations to the board. I know that it's the only thanks you get is the satisfaction knowing that you're true public servants. And I want to thank you for that, because it's a position that you get criticized for, very little accolades, and I can tell you this is one of the best school districts in Texas. It's certainly one of the best in the valley, but I'm very proud, to be here with you all today. I hope that you've had the opportunity to review the audit report that's in front of you. One of the components that I mentioned was the financial side. I will tell you that Los Fresnos ISD is very, very successful when it comes to finances. I'm gonna take you to page 13. Your total fund balance is almost $46 million. Your unassigned, which means that is not encumbered by anything, is $39 million. 85% of your total fund balance is unassigned, which means that that's your rainy day fund, so to speak. Within that rainy day fund, you've got that it costs Los Fresnos $271,000 a day every time you open the door. When you open those keys up, $271,000 is what your daily, based on 365 days a year, that's what it costs this district to operate. You're one of the strongest financial districts that my firm audits, and we do quite a few districts all the way up to Laredo. And you're certainly one of the strongest ones. You've got almost 5 months worth of operations, 143 days. Which means if no revenue came in, you could basically keep operating and paying your teachers and paying your maintenance for 143 days, and that is something that I see very little of. Your fund balance, as you know, went up significantly this year for a couple of reasons. One, your revenues that you budgeted at $104 million really came in at $116 million. That was a positive number of almost $12 million. Your expenditures were overstated on your budget, about $112 million. The actual were at $99 million. Those are good things, because that means that your fund balance went up about $25 million from what it was. I'm sorry, it's $16 million, almost $17 million went up. $25 million was the favorable variances that you had between your budgeted revenues and your actual, and your budgeted expenditures and your actual. So there were no findings. The opinions that you earned, we don't give opinions. The district earned the unmodified opinions, which means they were in good shape. There were no findings for us to report. That way that's the reason you don't have a management letter in front of you, because during our testing we found nothing that came to our attention that would warrant being reported to you. So all the opinions were unmodified. They were clean, and that's a lot to be proud of. I do want to thank Mr. Young and Mr. Basaldua and their staff for all the work that they did. It's always a joy doing this work. I wish all my clients were as clean and as prepared as you all are. So that's all I have for you today. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer those now. Or I'll punt to Mr. Young to answer the questions that y'all may have.
Looks like no questions, Secretary Cascos. Welcome back.
It's good to be home.
I mean, you never really left, but welcome back. We're glad to have you back, and I'm glad you say the things that you've seen other places. Most of us that have not, ventured out really have nothing to compare Los Fresnos to. And when you see it, you start appreciating Los Fresnos more. Those of us that have been able to see other schools within the area, but you've been throughout the state. So we know that your comments come from the heart, and thank you very much. David, we tell you all the time, we probably don't appreciate you as much as we should, but thank you and all your department and everybody for all the work that you do. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And congratulations to you all again. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Good day.
We didn't have anyone sign up in public audience. We go to the consent agenda. We have 4 items on consent agenda. At this point, I will entertain a motion to either, first of all, is there any items that we need to pull on consent agenda? If there is not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda as posted. Ms. Garcia?
I move to approve consent agenda items number 1 through 4 as posted.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Ms. Peterson? We have a motion and a second to approve the 4 items on consent agenda as posted. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous. Moving to our action items. Item number 1, discuss and take action as necessary to approve the auditor's report, which we just heard, and annual financial statements for the fiscal year ending August 31st, 2017. Do I have a motion? Ms. Garcia?
I so move.
We have a motion to approve the auditor's report and annual financial statement for the fiscal year ending August 31st, 2017. Is there a second? Mr. Garcia? No, I apologize. Let that stop now. I apologize. Sorry. To say that Ms. Garcia had made the motion. Seconded by Mr. Garza. Discussion. There being no discussion, we have a motion and a second to approve the auditor's report and annual financial statement of the fiscal year ending August 31st, 2017. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous. Item number 2, discuss and take action to approve the superintendent's personnel recommendation for the following positions, and this is a typographical error on the agenda. We have consulted with legal. We are changing that. It states 2016-2017. It should be reading 2017-2018 school year. Do I have a motion? Ms. Peterson?
I'll move, sir, that we approve the superintendent's recommendation for the school year of 2017-2018.
I have a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Castillo?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion and a second to approve the superintendent's personnel recommendations for the positions of teacher for the 2017-2018 school year. Discussion. There being no discussion, all those in favor of approving the superintendent's personnel recommendations, for the positions of teacher, the year 2017-2018. Please signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous. Do we have any of our new employees here tonight? Would you please stand so we can welcome you? Welcome to our district. I hope you've been here since the onset so you can see what some of the stats about us. Probably you checked those out way before you even signed up. Congratulations. Welcome to the team. It is 7:14. At this time, we're going to go into a closed session pursuant Section 551.071 and 551.72 and 551.074 of the State Government Code. It is now 8:14. We're out of closed session, back into open session. And back in open session, we have 4 items listed. We do not need action on item number 1 because we've already taken care of that. Item number 2, we've taken care of. Is that correct? No, we went in first. Okay, so at this time, item number 2, back in open session, discuss and take actions to approve bids, offers received from the tax resale held November 7th, 2017 for the referenced property struck off the Cameron County for itself and other taxing jurisdictions, and to approve a resolution authorizing the tax resale. Is there a motion? Ms. Peterson, we have a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Castillo? We have a motion and a second to approve the bids received from the tax resale held November 7, 2017 for the properties that were struck off to Cameron County for itself and other taxing jurisdictions, and to approve a resolution authorizing the tax resale. Is there, since we have a motion and a second, any discussion? There being no discussion, at this time I'll entertain a vote on the motion and second to approve the bids that we've already discussed. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Unanimous. Item number 3, discuss and take action to approve the summative performance evaluation of the superintendent as discussed in executive session. Is there a motion? Peterson?
That we approve the summative performance evaluation of the superintendent's discussion in second.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Garza? I have a motion and a second to approve the summative performance evaluation of the superintendent as discussed in executive session. Discussion. We have no discussion. I have a motion and a second for item number 3. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous. Item number 4, discuss and take action to approve the terms of the superintendent's contract as discussed in executive session. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the terms of the superintendent's contract as discussed in executive session.
That is Ms. Garcia. Do we have a second? Mr. Garza? We have a motion and a second to approve the terms of the superintendent's contract as discussed in executive session. Discussion? There is no discussion. With the motion and the second to approve the terms of the superintendent's contract as discussed in executive session, please signify if you're in favor to approve these terms. Please signify by raising your right hand. Unanimous. Announcement, sir. Sorry.
Sir, members of the board, on Saturday, January 27th from 9 to 10:30, we have a spelling bee at the Los Fresnos United Cafeteria, and on Monday, February 12th at 6 p.m. we have a regular school board meeting. I believe we have scheduled a workshop. Most of you have responded in the affirmative. A board workshop for February 1st. So thank you.
It is 8:18. This meeting is adjourned.